Alright, starting things off with Nikki tutorials. Most of you probably know by now that Nikki DeGeneres appeared on Ellen right after she did her coming out video. But although she said that it was an honor to be on the Ellen show, that's like a mom I made it kind of moment. I was on Ellen. Nikki admitted in a Dutch television interview in February that the experience wasn't what she thought it would be. Sebastian Williams found that clip and translated it. Roll it.
Het is wel heel leuk dat jij wel vooraf hallo kunt zeggen en zo. Het is bij Ellen in ieder geval, wat ik heb meegemaakt hier en andere landen, is dat gewoon een hele andere wereld. Het zit gewoon iets anders.
Afstandelijke killer.
I mean, her expression was like, she wanted to say it, but she couldn't say it. I'm actually surprised that she did say what she said. Coming for Ellen, Nikki! Alright, next we have Dakota Johnson. When Dakota appeared on the Ellen show, the interview definitely got people talking, for all the wrong reasons. Not only was this interview extremely awkward, Dakota Johnson essentially clapped back at Ellen and called her out for, I guess, making her a little bit uncomfortable. Essentially, Dakota Johnson wasn't gonna let Ellen walk all over her for a quick joke. It turns out that Dakota was actually right. She did invite Ellen to her birthday, but Ellen was out of town that weekend. It was the same weekend that Ellen was photographed at a Dallas Cowboys football game next to George W. Bush. More on that later. Oh, the tea! I got the tea! Next up, we have Susan Sarandon. There were a lot of people who were upset when they found out that Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush are friends. Or at least friendly. When Ellen and George W. Bush were photographed together in 2019 while watching a football game, a ton of stars came out with criticism on social media. One of those stars is Susan Sarandon. Ellen defended her relationship with the former president in her talk show. She said, "I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have." She also urged people to practice kindness, like she always does. This didn't go over well on social media. Here's a tweet. Ellen's whole thing about treating everyone with kindness only applies to people in her specific tax bracket, based on the open secret stories everyone hears about how she treats her staff. Susan Sarandon also responded to Ellen's explanation by tweeting an article by Out magazine called "Ellen is friends with Bush, but he was no friend to LGBTQ+ people." She added, "But missing the point entirely, DeGeneres framed this issue as simply a matter of her hanging out with someone with different opinions, not a man repeatedly accused of being a war criminal." Next up, we have Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner was banned from The Ellen Show after the release of her 2017 memoir, The Secrets of My Life. In the memoir, she said that Ellen alienated her from the LGBTQ community because of her thoughts on gay marriage. Caitlyn said, "I have to admit at the time that I remember, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was that the whole gay marriage issue came up, I was not for it. I'm a traditionalist. I mean, I'm older than most people in the audience. I like tradition, and it's always been between a man and a woman, and I'm thinking, I don't quite get it." Comedian Sherri Shepherd has also been banned from The Ellen Show for similar beliefs. While I'm not going to get into whether or not those beliefs are wrong, it is interesting that Ellen chooses to defend her friendship with people like George W. Bush for having different beliefs, yet not people like Caitlyn Jenner or Sherri Shepherd. Shouldn't that stance apply to all people who she disagrees with, not just the ones that are convenient to her? I'm just saying. And of course, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin versus Ellen is a bitter Hollywood feud we have all known about for years. But unlike Kathy, Ellen is well liked. Until now. I mean, especially after Kathy's whole Trump head thing, that was a little bit hard to stomach, I'm not gonna lie. So people were mostly on Ellen's side until now. In 2016, Kathy included a little jab at Ellen in her book about a, quote, daytime talk show host with short blonde hair. Kathy said that this person had a mean streak that all of Hollywood was aware of. Kathy Griffin has also been banned from The Ellen Show, and their feud started with a conversation about Joan Rivers. Kathy said, I quote, "One of the things that really hurt Joan, and we talked about it at our last meal together, was that Ellen always shunned her, and Ellen thought she was vulgar and not funny. I just called her and said, look, woman to woman, comic to comic, I think you need to let go of your hatred for Joan Rivers. She passed away. Do a f***ing tribute. Be cool." To which Ellen reportedly responded, "There's a difference between mean and funny." Well, you would know, Ellen, wouldn't ya? Ooh, I said it. I said it! According to Kathy Griffin, Joan Rivers didn't have a mean bone in her body. I personally love Joan Rivers' comedy. She's a legend, and I draw a lot of inspiration for my comedy from her. Comedy to me is about the unexpected. Joan Rivers paved the way for female comedians to be unapologetically themselves, rather than be stifled by what society deems as ladylike. For the record, Ellen did end up paying tribute to Joan Rivers on her show. Well guys, there you have it. I would just like to finish off this video not by defending Ellen, but just by saying that people are complex. Someone who appears extremely nice on TV might actually have a mean streak, and someone who appears really mean on TV might actually have a very soft side. We also can't forget all the good that Ellen has done for the world. She's human just like everyone else. We can all be mean in certain situations. And what she preaches is still important. You should always be kind to people. Not just when the cameras are rolling, huh? Huh? Yeah.
Ellen DeGeneres is getting cancelled on Twitter again after she made some comments towards Euphoria star Jacob Elordi. The host was interviewing the Australian actor who is also known for his starring role in the Kissing Booth series. But given that Euphoria recently put out a new season, her entire focus was on that show. Although nothing really about what it was like to work with the other actors. No. Instead, Ellen asked some very specific questions about the 24-year-old actor's nude scenes, which really left a lot of viewers angry, and Twitter made sure to let Ellen know. On the show Euphoria, Jacob plays the manipulative teenager named Nate Jacobs, and his character is creepy beyond belief, but he also is in so many nude scenes. DeGeneres touched on this touchy subject and noted just how much he is naked in the series. She then asked him how it felt and if he is ever consulted by the scriptwriters about being nude this frequently. He goes on to say, "You have no choice. Every scene is like he sleeps with this person, he does this with this person naked, but it's like, it gets to the point, I've done so many movies where it's like my character goes to the mall shirtless, and you're like, why?" And the real reason why people are upset with Ellen is because of her response to this. To him asking why screenwriters would put him in so many nude scenes, Ellen said, "Well, because look at you, that's why." And the comment caused Jacob to sip awkwardly from his drink as he collected himself. Ellen was attempting to draw a comparison between a man being naked on camera and a woman being naked on camera to see if there were any possible double standards that were happening. She reflected on how a woman would probably be asked about being involved in a nude scene, but everyone was only focused on Ellen sexualizing her guest. One person wrote in the comment section of Ellen's Instagram page, "I guess she didn't get the memo that Jacob is sick of his body being ogled and the center of attention. He's an amazing actor and had some astonishing scenes, maybe talk about that." With another adding, "I was thinking what would happen if Jacob was a girl and Ellen a man, saying the same things to her, like we obviously wanted to see you naked because of your body." And people were absolutely coming for Ellen in the comment section. Others were calling her show trash, saying that she loves making people feel uncomfortable and that she objectified Jacob for entertainment and ratings. Another unhappy viewer tweeted, "Ellen DeGeneres is trash and we've known that for years now. She loves to make people uncomfortable, and clearly Jacob Elordi is no different than anyone else that she has purposely and objectively made feel uncomfortable for entertainment and ratings." And the one thing that Jacob agreed with Ellen on was that by doing so many of these scenes, he has become more comfortable doing them. He also noted that such nudity comes with the territory of his character in this series, who plays an ultra macho masculine jock. He then added that being able to work with these same crew members and having an intimacy coordinator present during filming has all helped him feel more comfortable. He also must have heard about the backlash that Ellen was getting from this interview, so to clear the air, he posted a pic of himself on the show to his Instagram stories and wrote, "I love the Ellen Show."
In at number 10, Catherine Kelly Lang. It seems that soap actress Catherine Kelly Lang and entertainment reporter Richard Reed actually tried to warn us about Ellen's mean behavior before it was exposed. The now resurfaced clip is from the show I'm a Celebrity in January of 2019. When someone asked who the biggest mole in Hollywood was, Reed whispered, "Ellen, not nice." Lang agreed, saying, quote, "She's great to watch on her show and everything, but I think her personality is completely different when you get her behind the scenes." Reed then replied, quote, "I've heard it's hard to work on her show." After that big secret was exposed, the other members in the group seemed really disappointed in the news because Ellen was known at that time for being the nicest person in the business. And it's crazy that even though other celebrities were exposing that years ago, nobody actually listened. And at number 9, Richard Wilkins. Nine's entertainment editor Richard Wilkins revealed in an article what it was like interviewing Ellen many years ago, following the news of her show ending. Wilkins recalled feeling awkward and cold while meeting Ellen. Quote, "It was the coldest studio I've ever been in, figuratively and literally. It wasn't just the temperature, which was freezing." He also added that the whole experience was, quote, "the weirdest of interviews and very intimidating." Summing up the experience, saying, quote, "all very professional, but definitely not a warm and fuzzy experience." Later on in the article, he spoke of an interview he did with her in late 2013 on Australia's Today Show, where he claimed that Ellen staffers banned everyone but Wilkins from talking to Ellen on set. And based off that, I can definitely understand why he called the interview very intimidating. intimidating. In at number 6, David Mack. BuzzFeed Deputy Director of Breaking News David Mack has not been shy in his tweeting of Ellen following her decision to end her show. After the news broke, he simply tweeted out, quote, "Ellen is retiring to spend more time with George W. Bush." And honestly, that statement kind of adds up, considering the weekend Ellen didn't go to Dakota Johnson's birthday. That started their whole debacle. She was at a football game with George Bush. After Ellen recently claimed the whole scandal against her was orchestrated, he tweeted out again saying, simply no, then adding, quote, "Imagine being shocked that your junior employees are having a bad time because all your celebrity friends who are there for 5 minutes are having a great time." This was referencing an article where Ellen claimed her guests only spoke highly of the show. Halfway at number 5, Bridget Todd. Podcast host Bridget Todd reacted to the news of Ellen's show ending by tweeting out, quote, "It will never not be funny to me that Ellen's public downfall started when she lied about not being invited to Dakota Johnson's party, when in reality she couldn't come because she was at a football game with her good friend George W. Bush." Bridget later said that nepotism is probably a part of the reason that Dakota had the guts to stand up to Ellen in the first place. And if you didn't already know, Dakota Johnson is the daughter of celebrities Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson. And I completely agree. Most celebrities without connections probably would have just agreed with whatever Ellen said on her show. And at number 4, Kavos. Commentary YouTuber Kavos also commented on the situation after the news broke. He quote tweeted a news article about the show ending, adding, quote, "Ellen is leaving the Ellen show. Her reasoning is that it wasn't a challenge anymore. LOL, sure thing, bud." This sentiment has been all over social media because following her many scandals last summer, the Ellen show's ratings this year absolutely tanked. It was reported that following the season 18 premiere, the show's ratings plummeted from an average of 2.6 million to 1.5 million, a 43% overall decline. A lot of shows have declined because of COVID, but hers was definitely the worst drop. I wonder why. And at number 3, Kevin T. Porter. If you remember last year's Ellen scandal, then you definitely know who Kevin T. Porter is. He basically brought Ellen's meanness to mainstream attention when he tweeted out, quote, "Right now we all need a little kindness. You know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Respond to this with the meanest insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match everyone with $2 to the LA Food Bank." It seemed like almost instantly stories started flooding in of people sharing their terrible encounters with her. One waitress actually claimed that Ellen got her fired because she'd chipped nails, while another person said none of the staff were allowed to look at her in the eyes. From all the crazy stories that he got, Porter ended up donating $600 to the charity. And at number 2, Brad Garrett. He Everybody Loves Raymond star called out Ellen in a tweet in the midst of her last scandal, proving some people in Hollywood knew of her mean streak long before we did. He wrote on Twitter that her behavior was not a shock to him, or anyone else in the industry for that matter. He replied to a tweet about the Ellen scandal and added, quote, "Sorry, but it comes from the top. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge." That tweet is now deleted. Garrett had appeared on the show multiple times before he made his statement, so what he was saying was definitely true. And finally, at number 1, Hedda Muscat. Hedda Muscat, who worked as a producer on the Ellen show when it first debuted, did an interview on the Australian news program Sunrise where she exposed the truth. When asked about Ellen's recent departure from the show, Muscat said, quote, "The viewers have spoken. Her ratings have been in the toilet for a long time now. Her show has not been fun. It's not been interesting. And she's not really, by the way, stepping down. The viewers fired her." She also went on to explain that the viewers were most likely disappointed by her phoniness, more so than her terrible actions to her staff. Adding, quote, "I feel the viewers feel duped in a way, that she's not this nice person, and they're not going to put up with the backstage racism and bullying that goes on." So clearly Muscat did not have a good time on the show and didn't hold back with her feelings that Ellen is most likely not stepping away from the show. I feel like a lot of people are feeling that way. So that's all for the list. Let me know your thoughts below. Also let me know if you're a former fan of the show, and tell me why you stopped watching. Was it because of her scandal? Let me know below.
Moving on to number 9, Wanda Sykes. Now, in our list of people who should replace Ellen, I actually included Wanda because I think she's hilarious. She'd make a great daytime host, but instead they went with the first winner of American Idol. That's who is now hosting a daytime show, a singer. And I'm honestly, guys, I'm not even trying to insult Kelly Clarkson, more so just like crazy how this industry really shakes out, you know what I mean? I know she had her own daytime show for a while, so it makes sense, but how did she go from American Idol to taking over Ellen? Jeez. So back to Wanda. So while on the Ellen show, Wanda brought up a tour that Ellen had recently gone on, although it wasn't really all that much of a tour. Either way, Ellen denied she ever toured, claiming she'd remember if she did. That's when Wanda pulled out the official merchandise from the tour, a sweater reading the Ellen DeGeneres Relatable Tour. Real relatable, Ellen. However, given that there's only 4 dates, Sykes took the opportunity to poke fun at Ellen, telling her 4 shows would be a regular weekend on her schedule. On top of that, 3 of the 4 venues were cities in California, which further proved this wasn't much of a tour at all. Awkward. Now at number 8, Hasim Minhaj. I think we've all come to learn a golden rule in life is when you mispronounce someone's name and they correct you, you don't correct them back. It's like if someone calls me Bronstein, it's Steen. So if someone said, hey Bronstein, and I said it's Bronstein, they wouldn't say, no, it's Stein. But that's exactly what Ellen did, and when I tell you, it was one of the most uncomfortable situations on TV. Oh boy. When the interview started, she said Minhaj's name incorrectly, to which he said no, and she literally said yes. And then he replied again no, to which Ellen replied, really? He would go on to explain how he wanted to address this on national TV because people have often gotten his name wrong, and he wanted to take the opportunity to teach people how to properly pronounce it. He even joked about the entire situation, explaining, I quote, when I first started doing comedy, people were like, you should change your name. I'm like, I'm not gonna change my name. If you could pronounce Ansel Elgort, you could pronounce Hassan Minhaj. He also touched on this during an episode of his show Patriot Act, responding to an audience member who asked a similar question. Minhaj admitted at first he did change his name to Sean as a stage name, but realized that just wasn't it. I quote him saying, you'll have people who are like, this is my Chinese name, this is my American name. But I'm like, dude, F that, your name's your name. Bringing us to my favorite number 7, Katy Perry. Once upon a time, Katy Perry and her ex-husband, Russell Brand, had a very public relationship. We knew when they got married and of course when they had a very messy breakup. Yet it seems Ellen forgot all about the whole marriage part when the two were playing a custom game of Would You Rather. For the segment of the show, the game was titled Will You Parry Me, leading to Katy making a joke about her previous failed marriage. Asking Ellen, do I have to get married again? The daytime host told Katy she was never married. You don't do that, Ellen. You just don't. Katy then reminds Ellen about her relationship with Russell Brand after Ellen, appearing to generally not remember who she was married to, asked Katy who she tied the knot with in the first place. It was so uncomfortable, and Katy made a hand gesture that maybe they could cut the segment from airing, with the singer wrapping up by telling Ellen, I quote, remember you gave me some wedding gifts on the show? Now we're all human, but I mean, how could you forget, someone getting married, especially if you give them a gift on your show? And it's not like Katy and Russell's breakup was under the radar either. Like, this was all very public news, so I don't know. Now to number 6, Justin Timberlake, a good friend of Ellen's. These two love to dance and entertain. When they're seen on air together, it genuinely seems like they're best of friends and enjoy each other's company a lot. With that being said, you'd think if they're such good friends, Ellen would know the words to some of JT's most popular tracks. More specifically, when the song Can't Stop the Feeling was on every radio station, in every supermarket, and playing out of the speakers of every minivan, it seems Ellen just never picked up on the lyrics. When the track first came out, Ellen admitted to her audience and viewers at home that she sent a clip of herself singing along with JT. However, as Justin exposed Ellen, he explained, I quote, my favorite part was when you were like, it's just electric, just electric, just electric. I was like, that's not the words. For those of you who don't know, the lyrics are just imagined 3 times, but apparently Ellen had the electric slide on her mind. Bringing us to number 2, Taylor Swift. You guys remember her? I'm just kidding. Relax. Don't get all mad in the comments. This was a bit of an awkward exchange when Ellen told Taylor Swift about the time she was dating Zac Efron, which she never actually did. The two were on the show together as guests, and Ellen probably just assumed there was something going on there, given that they were both young, rich, famous, and taking over Hollywood. At least it seemed that way at the time, but now Zac's down in Australia living his best life ever. I wish I could too. Irrelevant. Point is, when Ellen made a comment about the two dating, Taylor corrected her with, I quote, we actually never dated. To which Ellen replied, yes you did. So, kind of like moving on. Obviously she meant it in a fun, lighthearted way, and it got laughs from everyone, Taylor included. But it was still a little awkward, especially when she kept making jokes about how the two did at one point date each other. It was one of those jokes that like the first time it worked, but she was beating a dead horse at this point. Wow. That's a very morbid saying. I've never actually said that out loud. Like, that's a very bad saying. Anyways, things went from bad to worse when Ellen started going through a list of men Taylor was potentially with, kind of turning it into a game, which you don't do that. Number 1, Blake Shelton. Shelton is a regular guest on The Ellen Show and appeared on the show in May of 2019 before appearing again as a guest just 7 months later in December of the same year. And the first time around, Ellen poked fun at Blake, giving him a countdown clock for when he'd be asking his girlfriend at the time, Gwen Stefani, to marry him. When Shelton was on the show again in December, Ellen brought up the gag, but Shelton put her on the spot. I quote him saying, but you didn't give it to me. I walked backstage and somebody back there was like, hey, thanks for being on the show. Could I have that? And they took it. So I haven't seen it. Time didn't really start ticking at that moment. Whoever your next guest was, you replaced the picture and did the same crap to them and embarrassed them. And he was fully on the money because Ellen did it to J-Lo, who would actually end up getting engaged, but well, as we know, that recently fell apart. Now at number 5, Mark Ruffalo. The man is outspoken on Twitter regarding his politics, and regardless of who you are, if he has an issue, he'll let you know. After Ellen was seen sitting next to George W. Bush at a Cowboys game, the internet went off. Ellen tried to explain that she was invited to the game with her wife Portia by Jerry Jones, owner of the Dallas Cowboys, aka America's team, even though they haven't won a Super Bowl in almost 25 years, but that's besides the point. When the photo of Ellen next to Bush started going viral, she receives backlash considering the latter's policies, specifically against same-sex marriage. Ellen explained on a segment during her show that just because she doesn't agree with someone's beliefs doesn't mean she can't befriend them, and went on to say how she stands by her beliefs of being kind to everyone. But it seems Mark Ruffalo wasn't having it, retweeting a Vanity Fair article speaking on the situation and captioning it, I quote, sorry, until George W. Bush is brought to justice for the crimes of the Iraq War, war, including American-led torture, Iraqi deaths, and displacement, and the deep scars, emotional and otherwise, inflicted on our military that served his folly, we can't even begin to talk about kindness. Safe to say she didn't comment on that. At number 4, Wendy Williams. Now it's no secret Wendy can be problematic at times, so to no surprise, Wendy threw shade at Ellen after she won an award. Back at the 2019 People's Choice Awards, where Ellen won the award for Daytime Talk Show Host, fellow nominee Williams had some choice words for the winner. While rolling her eyes with a completely unenthusiastic voice, Williams, while on her show, said, "Congratulations, Ellen, you won again. People's choice." Alright. Now people say Wendy is just sour that she didn't win, but considering how Ellen has won the award almost every year since 2005, with the exception of 2010 and 2018, well, I get why Wendy is upset. The award has changed names a few times, but Ellen won it from 2005 through to 2009, and then won again in 2011 straight through to 2018. She made history in 2017 when she won her 20th award, and at some point, I mean, you gotta question who's voting here. At 3, Tom Bergeron. While Ellen was hosting the Oscars, it appears she missed a few of her cues, either because she was nervous or maybe she was distracted. Truth be told, I didn't mind her as a host, and that Oscar selfie will forever go down in the books as something great. But it seems Tom was quick to throw a jab at the daytime host, simply tweeting out, "Is Ellen missing cues because she's watching something better backstage?" Of course, he went on to say the selfie was great, and it seems he wasn't even all that serious, but more so was just making light of the situation. Still, there's truth in every joke, and I think Tom said what we're all thinking. What the hell's going on?